A wonderful Haftarah, I think one of the most powerful texts, taken from the book of Shmuel Aleph, 1 Samuel. It tells the story of Hannah. She is filled with anguish because she's unable to have children. Her rival Penina mocks her since she has children, and even the priest Eli mistakes her silent prayer, which will later become the basis of our Amidah. He mistakes it for drunkenness. But Hannah doesn't give up. The Torah says, V'hi marat nefesh v'titpalel al Adonai uvacho tivkeh. And she was in bitterness of soul. And she prayed to Adonai and wept bitterly. In time, her prayer is answered. She's going to have a son, Shmuel, who she will dedicate to God's service. And she'll sing a triumphant song of thanksgiving, praising God, who lifts up the lowly and humbles the mighty. This Haftarah is chosen for Rosh Hashanah because of the word Zikaron. The God of remembering, God remembers her. As we just read in the Torah, God remembers Sarah. The word that is used here, the Torah reading, the other connection, of course, is that it's Yom Zichron Trua, that the Torah says when it describes Rosh Hashanah, there's not a lot of description. It just says today is a day of remembrance with loud blasts. This is the day when we are asking to be remembered for goodness, for blessing. This is the day when we hear voices of women whose prayers broke through despair and were answered with hope. The Sfat Emet, Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leib, the altar of Ger, the Ger Rebbe in the 19th century, teaches us that Hannah's greatness wasn't simply in her prayer or the words or that God answered her, but it was this simple act of praying itself. And he says the following, Afilu mitoch marat nefesh yesh la'adam lefanot el Adonai. Even out of bitterness of soul, a person must turn lefanot to God. Hannah's hope was not the certainty that things would change, but that even in anguish, things could turn around. Perhaps not in spite of those times of soul pain, of anguish, but maybe especially in those times we can find that turning. The word again that he uses, lefanot, to turn, lies at the very heart of this season. To turn is lashuv, the root of the word tshuva. Tshuva, the leitvort, the key word of these days, is not only repentance, but is reorientation, returning to God, turning around, returning to our truest selves. Even in marat nefesh, even in this bitterness of soul, Hannah teaches that the very act of turning, that is the seed of hope. Today, many of us know anguish. Today, many of us experience all kinds of struggles, personal, the pain of our people, the divisions in our country, the threats to our democracy, the brokenness of our world. Yet Hannah's example can remind us that in this little act of turning, there is hope. We can come together as we do today as one, with our broken hearts, with our yearning, to find that little hidden light of hope. Rosh Hashanah, like the new moon, begins with that faintest glimmer of light, the beginning of the new moon in the sky. But it is the first light of the year that reminds us that everything is open, everything is possible. So as we hear David chant this Haftarah and give voice to Hannah's prayer, may it become our prayer too, that in our turning, we find hope, the hope we need in the year ahead.